Hey, beautiful people, Shane here. I just wanted to take a moment to share an experience that Joe and I had on Friday. Joe and I work together most Fridays, and we often start our day together by lighting a candle on our altar, and we gently weave a simple ritual of gratitude, and the intention is to hold that light for our families, our friends, our kin, clan, tribe and community. So all of you and all those that we work with, all those that we hold dear, so all of you, seen and unseen, known and unknown. And it's something that naturally comes to us both to kind of stand within those spaces and weave that light, that intention of just holding our wider community. And I think, you know, that is very, very simple, but yet very punchy, especially within that space. You know, that altar, when I take a look and I step back and I look at that altar, I'm kind of really moved and touched and really blown away by so much of it has been gifted to us over time. So many aspects of that have either been gifted, handcrafted, and made for us in mind, you know, down to the bloat bowl, down to the medicine shield, the many crystals that sit within that altar, you know, all those components down to the candles. You know, there's so much within it that has been gifted. So, you know, I kind of look at that altar and it is, you know, there's so much that brings up this sense of deep gratitude, and also gratitude to the innate. Again, those that are known, unknown, seen and unseen. And we often light that candle and, you know, as I say, with that simple ritual of gratitude and holding that light for all that we hold dear. And this particular Friday, we'd sat on the floor crafting these lovely simple crane bags. Those of you that have never heard of the term a crane bag is a medicine pouch from these lands, from the Celtic lands. It was known as a crane bag, and I think, you know, there's so much in that. You know, you think about the messaging or the symbology around a crane or a stalk. Okay, so just kind of take hold of that for a moment. So these simple crane bags, these medicine pouches, and we're sitting there on the floor and we were weaving them and we were filling them with soil. Now, there's a beautiful story around soil, but for another time. And we were filling them with this soil, incredible soil, and these seeds and some ash that had come from Lowfest fire. So that's harvest, okay, and it's first harvest from the ash of that fire that then is moving into the soil that goes back into the land at Imbolc. And our Imbolc is only a few days away, but more about that in a moment. So again, another strand of alchemy, taking the ash from harvest into the beginnings of a whole nother cycle of time, and a very gentle growth cycle. Okay, it's the beginnings where the seeds begin to take hold. And when I say seeds, I'm on about literal, but also those seeds that we have been tending to during the winter within our dreaming. So our longings, our dreams, our hopes. Okay, so we were weaving these seed bombs of sorts for up and coming Imbolc community rite on the 5th, something that Spirit have been calling dreaming the seeds. Okay, and we stood there for a while holding that light and weaving it into those crane bags with the intention that it's like a blessing of sorts. we're dreaming them, for those seeds represent the dreams and longings of our clan, our tribe, and our community. So those seeds represent those dreams, all of which they have been nurturing and tending to over the winter. So, you know, what dreams have we been tending to over the winter? It's a very powerful time of alchemy. You know, the more we move into a natural cycle of time, the earth-based cycle, the more we alchemize our energy and our intentions. And as I say, it is a time that spirit called a dreaming. The winter is a time that they called a dreaming. And these little crane bags will be gifted to all that come to our ritual and our rite, our community rite on the 5th, to journey with, to dream more so, and to breathe life to those dreams, and for us to bear witness to what those dreams are. Beautiful. And there we stood at that altar, and in the doorway, which is kind of like behind the altar, so to speak, those that have spent time with me here in this very liminal space will know that the doorway is just behind the altar, and they're standing there, which is quite something that happens from time to time. Is, you know, these presences appear in the doorway. I've spoke about doorway so often because they are transitional spaces, and there in the doorway appeared Brigid. And you know, I've worked with Brigid for many years. We've worked with Brigid for many years, and I have, and so does Joe at home. We brought them at different times without even communicating. We have these beautiful wall hangings, and my wall hanging hangs in the centre of my home, of her with her fiery red hair. And in 2011, I was gifted this beautiful portrait, this beautiful portrait. And it took me many years to actually know who she was. This beautiful portrait painted by Sheila Rose from Tribal Angel. Her work is just outstanding. And this, you know, I have many portraits that have been gifted and commissioned over the years by Sheila. But this, you know, I will always hold dear. It was the first ever portrait. I felt a smile then, and she does. Her eyes move around the room. It's like you can feel the mood change within her face at times as well. Like I just felt that shift then, like a little smile. I'm just feeling that then. But yeah, it was the first portrait, and also, you know, what happened. Look at this oak leaf brooch. Okay, and that is really important. So it took me many years to understand who she really was at first. Yet it was in plain sight. And what a journey that was. And leading up to this beautiful experience of having this portrait done, I think at the time Sheila and I traded a portrait for a consultation, which was really lovely as well. But leading up to this beautiful experience, only weeks before, I was led into a charity shop where I just felt this pull to go into this charity shop. I discovered this simple oak leaf brooch, and weeks later, you know, Sheila, and it was in real time. So whilst I was doing the consultation, Sheila's painting, and I couldn't see what she's painting. And there, as you saw, within the painting was this simple oak leaf brooch. It was complete validation that the same person was guiding me. And what do we see as she turns it over? There she is, with this oak leaf brooch. And it took me many years to really understand who it was, yet it was in plain sight. You know, it was such an incredible validation. And then years later, I think only 3 years ago, I discovered the story of Brigid and the oaks of Kildare, because that brooch is an oak leaf brooch. Okay, you know, and this is how spirit work: is they give you pieces of the jigsaw. These are pieces of the jigsaw, and it will be a story and it's a lovely story that I will share in weeks to come. So yes, Brigid. Now, who is Brigid? She is a goddess from Ireland. She comes to me often carrying a basket. And you know, often when I sit there in that weaver's chair, you know, weaving those prayers of gratitude, I call upon her, Freya, Frey, Odin and Ellen, as well as my personal guides such as Brenna and Eden. But she stands there, Brigid, often carrying a basket, and she's wrapped in this green cloak. You see that green cloak there, and there is another portrait, a later portrait that many of you may have seen, and she's wearing this beautiful witch's hat and wrapped in this green cloak with her fiery red hair and eyes, her eyes that are deep green. And for me, she is the mistress of the hearth, of the home and of the flame. And often I see her tending to the fire gently. You know, for the Irish, the hearth side and the fire was a very sacred place. It was a very liminal place, a very liminal space, and often they would see ancestors appearing, the deceased, their loved ones appearing beside the fireside. So these become very sacred liminal spaces. So the fire is very sacred to the Irish, as it is, I think, throughout the whole of the Celtic lands. Same for the Scots, and also for the Norse, and all of those threads run through my veins. I feel very blessed. So she is, you know, associated to also magic and to the land. She blesses the hearth and those that dwell there. And she first comes such a long time ago. And I had this experience with an ancient Irish ancestor, one of my mum's people. You know, many of you know the story of my mum's mum appearing to me when I was 7. Incredible. You know, without that interaction and how that worked and the way that she'd done that, I don't know if I'd be sitting here doing the work that I'm doing. It was absolutely by design. But one of my mum's people going back, come to me in a dream, and I know that without a doubt she had also honoured Brigid. So Brigid, she's in my blood and in my bones, literally. She's familiar for sure and always has been. So there we were, Joe and I, standing at the altar, and Brigid appeared with her basket, and in that basket it was full of logs, and she was wrapped in this green cloak, soaked from the rain, her eyes kind and knowing. She stood with this sense of poise there in the doorway, as if she was emphasizing the fact that she was standing in the doorway. There was this feeling of information, and we know how spirit love doorways, you know, transitional spaces, the thresholds, the gateways, the doorways. And as we say often, all information is information. And then the penny dropped. She is standing at the threshold, waiting to come in. Well, in 2 days' time, it is Imbolc, depending when you listen to this. But as I record it, 2 days from now, it is Imbolc, the 1st of February, which is in honour of Brigid. It is her day, celebrated across Ireland and the global heathen Celtic community. She simply smiles. I felt in that moment she simply smiled, and she said to me, I felt the word so deeply, she said to me, from the dreaming comes the awakening. From the dreaming comes the awakening. What a powerful message. Because we are moving from the dreaming, gently drifting into the awakening. For us, we had started to drift into the dreaming at autumn equinox. It fully takes hold at Samhain, All Hallowed Eve, moving through winter solstice, which is a punchy time for deep magic. And then within the dreaming across Oath Night, which is New Year's Eve, traditionally the clans would have gathered on New Year's Eve. It was known as Oath Night, and renewed their oaths and their vows, which is where the distorted idea of New Year's resolutions have come from. And now we slowly drift into what Brigid calls the awakening, when the true New Year takes hold at spring equinox. We've got the dreaming, moving, drifting into the awakening towards spring, and where that new true New Year takes hold at spring equinox. And I love that. I just absolutely love that. You know, we're forever growing, we're forever learning, we're forever being taught, and I love that. And that image brings it brings a feeling of her raking out the hearth, sweeping it clear and setting a new fire, and gently bringing those embers to life. From the dreaming comes the awakening, just gently bringing those embers to life, stirring and awakening. And she gently steps back in this image, this vision. She gently steps back after raking that half side clear, taking some of the embers and then breathing life into a whole new fire. And she gently steps back and hangs the Brigid cross above the fireside. And a few nights back at dusk, I sat in candlelight and wove this beautiful Brigid cross. I just sat there in candlelight a few nights back, last night in fact, and wove this beautiful Brigid cross. A tradition in Ireland that would have done with reeve grass, yet I had this feeling of weaving it with wool, and something that I felt in the last few winters is Brigid appearing as a shepherdess. It's so much messaging in that as well. And then had this feeling to go out and journey the hedgerows looking for wool, and then to spin them on the old gypsy spindle into some yarn. Now I understand why. Because then I can weave that yarn into these Brigid crosses. Okay, so I just wove it as if I knew how, which was kind of odd as well. So wove this beautiful Brigid cross, a tradition in Ireland, and one my mum's people knew. So it's the first time I've ever wove this cross in this way, yet it somehow felt very familiar. A simple tradition of casting last year's onto the fire in thanks, and hanging the new either beside the hearth, doorway or threshold, or even on the altar. Simple yet beautiful magic. Look at the pattern in that. It's really stunning, isn't it? Really beautiful. And that's how often they're hung in that direction, which is like a spinning wheel cycle, turning and twisting, weaving and woven. And as I say, it's simple yet beautiful magic. And you know, I was really touched and beyond humbled by that vision of her raking the embers out and then hanging the cross. And then, you know, the days that followed, only 2 days, I sat there and I wove in candlelight that cross, as if I knew what I was doing, as if I've always done it. You know, I was really humbled by that vision and that experience and the image and message. And may it bless your days. May it bless your day and your days. And maybe this Imbolc, you too can weave a Brigid's cross and hang it above your doorway, your hearth or altar. And maybe you could even light a candle, carrying it from room to room at dusk or even dawn, and bless your house. And a simple prayer you can use as you do is along these lines. Bless this house, O beloved Brigid. We pray and make it safe by night and day. Bless these walls so firm and stout, keeping want and trouble out. So, if you had a question, just about to wrap up, before we do, if you had a question for Brigid, what would it be? If you had a question for Brigid, what would it be? Have a think of that. And I'm going to leave you with one of these beautiful cards from the Celtic Spirit Oracle deck. And again, another beautiful gift from a beautiful, beautiful dear friend of mine. So if you had a question for Brigid, what would it be? Let's take a card for the clan at Imbolc. If you had a question for Brigid, what would it be? And here's the answer. The herbalist. Healing, keywords are healing, of course, medicine and herbs. And Brigid, she's associated with magic and she's associated with healing. Think about your question and then just ponder on that, the herbalist, as an answer. What could that be? What could the answer be? Something we are going to explore and unpack more fully next week. But in the meantime, as you move through Imbolc, just ponder that question and ponder that answer. I really hope you've enjoyed this longer edition video in honour of Brigid and in honour of Imbolc. May there be a blessing upon your house, as O beloved Brigid we pray. Make it safe by day and night, night and day. Bless those walls so firm and stout, keeping want and trouble out. Keep shining, beautiful people. Until next time, sending you all so much love.